Welcome, everyone, to our legacy author interview with the remarkable DeChenne, author of What is Agency and Why Does It Matter? And it's an honor to have you with us and to share more about the important work you're doing.
Thank you.
So, you kick off that article with a bang, talking about learned helplessness and suggesting maybe it's manufactured helplessness. Talk about that.
Manufactured helplessness. That was a big, big moment when I came up with that because it explains so much.
Yes.
So when in education, oftentimes we're talking about that students learned helplessness, they
Right.
just don't want to do anything like that. But then that puts the onus on the student. And yeah, maybe to a certain extent. However, I would say that systems, broken or otherwise, often can create those senses of helplessness.
Yeah.
And my work, when I was working with, when I'm working, still do work with refugees in different refugee settlements.
Yep.
I was a couple of years ago, I was in Uganda and I was in a meeting, and the people were talking about, oh, we can't do this because we're just refugees. We can't do that because we're just refugees. This is bad because we're just refugees. And I was just sitting there thinking, you guys need to change your brand.
Yep.
And then when I started looking at the language that was being used in the humanitarian field, and let's go with education too, looking at the language that's being used is really deficit laden as from the refugees coming up and then also going down, vulnerable populations, critical need. It strips agency from everybody and assumes control of sort, even the humanitarian fields. It's so interesting because it's so insidious that it's been adopted. The language has been adopted by the people who are being oppressed. And I find that absolutely fascinating. So when I
It
came up
really
with
is.
manufactured helplessness, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, and I'm seeing it everywhere now. So it's just one of those words.
Yeah. Well, the insight is incredible. And whether you're talking about Uganda or anywhere else in the world, there's so much disruption going on where everyone feels this sense of helplessness and
Yep.
and this narrative you're talking about is coming out of everybody's mouth where they can't do anything, they don't want to stand up and be counted, they feel like they're stuck wherever they're stuck. It's it is insidious.
It is. And what was the biggest surprise for me was the fact that I found it everywhere. So I'm going to talk about something that I haven't talked about publicly, but I developed an audit bot of sorts with
Ah,
yeah, and so we'll work on that. But I've developed a methodology or framework for looking at the different deficit language that's been happening. And I found it in the United Nations report. I found it
wow.
in the Global Human Rights Defense Report.
Wow.
Oxford has a group that works with about with refugees and forced migration, and their blog was full of deficit language. And Microsoft's 2024 annual report even had deficit language in there. It basically erased people.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was my big surprise was that, hey, wow, this isn't just limited to humanitarian field. It's not just limited to education. It's not just limited to this. This is basically a form of colonial language, or hey, let's go with narrative social Darwinism.
Wow.
And, and that's one, yeah, that one's a big one.
Yeah.
Um, it's a form of oppression. It's erasure. Who are you erasing? Who's not being seen? How are you talking about them, etc.
Well,
Sorry.
I was, no, please, this is wonderful. I laughed because it was such an innovative turn of phrase, but there's
Yeah.
nothing to laugh about. Social
No,
Darwinism
awful.
is evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. So while I catch my breath, you did a
Yes.
wonderful, very succinct definition of agency, the
Yeah.
ability to make choices and actions in ways that matter.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That strips away any kind of overlay that people put on it or any flavor to it. And
Yeah.
whatever the context,
Hmm.
choices so that people feel that they can do things that matter.
Right.
That's it. I mean, how much more simple can it get than that?
No.
And then when you say, the narratives position students as passive recipients and strip away their agency, you could substitute for students,
Yellow.
citizens, or anybody else in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Labels. For one, they're really good to define or describe, but on the other hand, they also oppress.
Yeah, it's really striking. You did start out with a very concrete example in the article about technology and how we're just keeping students from technology that in reality they already have access to outside of school.
Right.
They're already users and creators. But it's a really, instead of talking about things that are more vague and hard to nail down, technology is such a concrete thing that we all can see and agree on. Um, what is that all about? Restraining students from technology.
Okay, well, so for me, I'm I really was a horrible student. Still am in some ways. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, I do study on my own. I'm not real good at formalized education. Um, and so when I discovered AI and chat, for example, for
Yes.
me, that
Yes.
was amazing because what it did for me was it gave me a thought partner that didn't get tired, didn't roll their eyes, it didn't go, oh my God, there she goes again.
Right.
It opened up my world
Yeah.
and it was so great. It still is. So, you can look at technology as being the evil demon of all, or you can look at it as a tool that it is. And if we don't teach the kids the tools, how are they going to be able to navigate in the future? Sorry,
Right.
technology is not going away.
No, absolutely not.
So banning cell phones are a pain in the butt. I will say that. I agree
Okay.
100%.
Understood.
But for some students, for my language learners, for example, they use it to help translate. For other kids, they put up the music barrier to help them focus.
Yeah.
For other kids, they're just looking at TikTok and stuff. That's
Right.
fine. I mean, people are making choices, and it's a battle. It really is. But it is until it isn't. I don't know. I don't have a huge problem in my classroom, but I'm kind of crabby. So, the kids are like, oh, there she goes again. And I
Yeah.
do. When I threaten to take away their phone, I take it away and send it to the office for the rest of the day.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you can't make threats without following through. And I make threats. So, that makes me
Right.
horrible. It does.
Well, to your point, and I haven't thought about this in a long time. When I was still a young man, I was a technology coordinator for Arlington, Virginia public schools. And at that time, and they still are a very progressive community, at that time, they had no internet filters. They had no restraining of technology in any way. And they saw any time there was a misuse of technology or an incident of any kind, it was a teachable moment.
Mhm.
And then SEPA came into play, and everybody had to put in filters and have all kinds of policies and restrictions in order to get approval from the government and be in play
Mhm.
for money and considerations. Um, and everything proliferated. All of a sudden, we had all kinds of extra issues with technology because of all the things that were put in place to keep to prevent things from happening. Um, Is this all part of a larger pattern when we're talking about agency? Is there something consistently going on across society that whether we're talking about technology or individual rights or people's freedoms as refugees that we continue to hit this approach to shutting things down?
Well, it's historically the way it's been done, right? Something new comes along, people freak out, they try to shut it down. It
Yeah,
doesn't get shut down, causes problems, things go along, then we adjust, we move on, we grow. Happens
right.
again. Is it a bigger thing of society? Probably. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about the ways things are broken or not broken.
Right.
But I already pretty mired down in what I'm working on, and so I
Right.
haven't looked at it in terms of the whole world.
Understood. Understood. You can't solve all the world's problems. I hear you.
No, I don't even think I want to.
So you make some pretty insightful statements. Recognize that students are not helpless, they're capable, resourceful, and ready to lead change.
Yeah.
That's bam. Shift from giving a voice to actually listening to the voices already speaking. Bam.
Yes. Yes.
Ensure that students are decision makers, not just passive recipients of your content. Bam. I mean, these are all things we've been talking about how to rethink education at the Worthy Educator for the last year. And these things have kept coming up. And so to have you espouse them in your article and just, common sense, look, this is the way it is. This is what's needed. This is if you're going to empower people, um, was just so validating to hear you say these things.
Well, I'm glad. It's a big thing for me, and I was looking at agency originally when all of a sudden then I started it kind of led itself. Originally, I was looking at my language learners and then how can I get them to how can I help them get be successful? And
Yeah,
then I was thinking about school and how they're talking about culturally responsive educate teaching and how what we're supposed to be doing to help with that. Then I thought, they need to be able to access that. They need to be comfortable enough to be able to access what we're giving them. But wait a
right,
minute, because we really can't have culturally responsive teaching until we have culturally responsive education that's supporting the teaching that will allow for the kids to be able to access it. So it just seemed like manufactured problems that we're having.
yes,
Um,
yes,
so, for example, if we're only trying language learners struggle in schools because oftentimes teachers don't realize that, yes, these students still know how to do stuff. Having
mm,
another language or two or three is absolutely an amazing thing.
right,
Just because they may not be able to express it in fully in English, that doesn't mean they didn't get the content.
right,
So there needs to be another way of looking at it.
yep,
A lot of times people just kind of freeze and freak out. And then also maybe they feel kind of, I can't think of a word. Um, oh, I can't think of a word. It's like right there and I can't get
right,
it. Like they
right,
can't speak another language. If they cannot speak another language, threatened. Maybe they feel a little threatened.
right.
I hate to say that. I'm sorry for anyone who's getting mad at me, but maybe I'm not, this is not a blanket statement. This is
Understood.
possibilities only. I'm not
Understood.
one for loving blanket statements at all because they don't
No,
work.
no.
But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, you don't need to apologize. And if nothing else, we're pushing thinking. Whether or not we claim we have the answers, which we don't,
Nah.
we're asking the right questions. We're,
Yeah.
we're speaking up for people that don't have a voice.
Hmm.
And really, that was one of the things you said later in the article that just, again, another pearl. Agency isn't about learning outcomes, it's about identity.
Right.
Like, wow. Okay. Well, if nobody had thought of that and needed to hear that succinctly to kind of focus their attention on this, I mean, we all come from a different place and have our own identity. And
Hmm.
if if we're not going to honor that, then what are we doing in education? Yeah, I don't know either. So you did mention specifically the pandemic as a real key point where you started to see engagement drop, and there's just so many more implications than just learning loss from the pandemic. Can you speak to that a little? What have you seen and how do you understand it?
I think, I think, not an expert here, but I think a lot of students miss some critical social benchmarks that they needed to meet.
Mm,
Social, maybe even emotional benchmarks.
Yeah.
And so some students, and I work in high school, so when I'm speaking about students, I'm speaking about kids coming from middle school to high school or just in high school in general.
Hmm.
Missed out on some learning for behavior, etc., which would help shape their, of course, their executive thinking and their growth. I think
Hmm.
that was part of the problem. What I saw and what I see is that students are not reading as well as they could before.
Right.
I have seen that the curriculum that I used with students when I first started, okay, I'm gonna be 100% honest here. When I first started teaching, I was a English language teacher, period. And then
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, look, you have a social studies endorsement. You can teach social studies." And I'm like, I just took the test to see what it was like, and I passed it. Yay me. But so I had to teach it. So I told the kids, "Look, we're going to learn this together." And I
Yes.
thought, well, why not? So I actually use college level material with my students. They didn't know that until the end of the class. And then I told them, and they were like, whoa. And they worked, they did it. But
Yeah.
these kids that I'm having right now, I'm struggling with regular grade level material. Now,
Right.
and that brings me back into technology. The super cool thing is that I can differentiate for all of my students based on
Yeah.
their language level, their IEPs, and there's
Yeah.
the regular stuff through using ChatGPT or another AI and make it all look the same so no one feels different.
Right. And I think for a lot of us in education who aren't ahead of that curve, we can't fathom that yet. We don't understand how liberating that will be that you can say that
It's
because
huge.
yes,
It's
but
huge.
until you do it and understand it and realize how easy and uh, how liberatory it is in your
Yeah.
classroom,
Mhm.
it's profound.
It is, it really is. And what's really great is the fact that I can meet the kids where they are and pull them up a little bit further.
Yes.
And
Well,
so instead of giving them one size fit all curriculum, I'm trying to meet the kids where they're at.
yeah,
And no, I'm not creating 35 different lessons. You know, you can make
right,
small little homogeneous
right.
groups, but um yeah, no, it freed up my time tremendously, which allowed me more time to be able to work with them on other things.
And I think that's if for all the things that I'm going on about your article, which just is so rich with things to think about. You finally get to the point where you say, when I began centering agency in my classroom, I felt myself coming back to life as an educator.
Uh-huh.
It's like if anybody needs a selling point, there you go. It's
I
like for
have to
all of us.
admit, and it's been no surprise to anybody who knows me and anybody who's worked with me, that I went through probably some serious years of burnout.
Yeah,
And it took its toll on me physically, emotionally, and professionally. I was done. I'm actually kind of excited about this next year, which is kind of freaky for me because I'm like, been thinking, oh, I want out, I want out, I want out. And now I'm kind of like, oh, wow, we're going to be doing this. This will be kind of cool. I can't wait to see. And so, yeah.
hey, I was always that way. If I was learning, then I was engaged and I was excited about teaching. I couldn't
Yeah.
just sit there and go through the motions. It just wasn't me.
Well, and I can't go back to the way I learned at high school. It didn't work for me
No,
at all.
no.
Not
Yeah.
one single solitary bit. In fact, I found out 3 days before graduation that I was going to graduate. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I wasn't going to.
Right.
Okay, cool. I think the term is neurodivergent, and way back, way back, um, dinosaur adjacent, they didn't
Right.
have that kind of thing. So,
No, no concept of that.
no.
Exactly. Um, I'll cite you again. Agency means showing students, especially those that have been marginalized, that their
Yeah.
thoughts, voices, and decisions matter.
Yeah.
What a beautiful sentence.
That means for everybody.
Amen.
Hmm.
And especially these days, that needs to be accentuated. There's too
Yeah.
much polarization. There's too much us versus them. There's too much. who's in
Yeah.
and who's out.
Well, last year with a group that I had, I was really surprised at how much bullying was going on in class. But when we did class norms, bullying was one of the things they said was not allowed.
Yeah.
So they didn't recognize that what they were doing was bullying.
Yeah.
And so I think they kind of do now. I hope. I mean, we spent the whole year trying to get there. But
Right.
it's just so interesting. I don't know. There's a
Well,
lot out in the world that's interesting right now.
yeah, it's not a boring time to be alive, that's for sure.
No,
Um,
a little stressful sometimes, but not
oh,
boring.
amen. Now, you work as, and you reference this, as a high school English language development teacher in Oregon, but you're also the founder and director of Little by Little Education Services, and you work with community-based and refugee-led organizations in Africa and India.
Yep.
Talk about that.
Well, actually, that started in Chile in South America.
Huh.
Yeah, a friend of mine was down there, and I got asked to go to consult with um a preschool, and they had a bazillion kids in there, little kids, and I'm like, ooh, little kids, why do you want me to talk? I mean, I'm high school. I got sarcasm and swear words. I really don't know if I'm good with the little ones. But I went in there and I got swarmed with these little things, and they're all super cute and everything was great. There weren't any books in there. And I said, well, where are your books? We
Yeah.
have some in this cupboard. There's 10 of them. Well, how do you teach the fifth, 5-year-olds how to read? We use PowerPoint. But in Chile during that time, and I think it's still the case, I'm not sure,
Mhm.
they had a luxury tax on printed material, so books were expensive. So I
Uh,
started sending books down there, and then that's how little by little came about eventually.
huh.
Um, don't ask. It was a pressure. You need to just start a little nonprofit. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know how to start a nonprofit. I still don't know how to do a nonprofit, but I seem to be doing it still. So we're doing okay. But yeah, then I got an opportunity to go to India, which was epic, and I
Yeah.
did some work down there, and they continue the work without me mostly, and I like it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went to Africa because that was epic too. I mean, seriously, I've been wanting to do these things, and finally it's like, well, no one's ever going to go with me, so I'm just going to go by myself. Boom, here I go.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
family's like, no, don't do it. But yeah, so what I'm working on mostly right now with the community-based organizations and refugee led organizations
Yeah.
is I provide things. It's the little by little education services. Notice that it's really vague. You know
Yes.
why? Because if it has anything to do with education, then I can do it. Yay!
Right. Right.
So we just finished a pilot project with elderly.
Huh.
And because the elderly are often overlooked
Yeah.
in everything. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to look at women and children or young people, men and elderly. Anyway, so I brought in a entrepreneur trainer person, and so we have elderly who I have a pilot going on where I'm having someone map the elderly and
Yes.
looking at what they have a lot of grandchildren or children that are orphans living with them. Are they going to school? How can
Yeah.
we help them go to school? Do
Uh,
they, what supplies do they need? What do they need food? How's their housing? So we're just doing this basics map
yeah.
and
Yeah.
also skill detection. And so we did this thing where it's called Ubu Change, and they came and they trained 20. It ended up being a lot more than that because people kept trying to get in
Yeah.
to be how to sell their stuff. And they have a platform.
Mhm.
And lady walked out of there and she had already a hat and a bag. Somebody wanted to buy it. So then I
Ah,
gave them little micro grants to help buy materials and
yep.
get started. And also
That's
two sewing
wonderful.
machines because the ladies knew how to sew and do tailoring, but they didn't have a machine. Their machines are so
Yes.
cool because they use your feet because they didn't have electricity.
Right.
So the old
Right.
fashioned ones. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that was education.
Hey.
adjacent.
No, well, it's necessary if you don't meet those basic needs.
Well, yes, and that's the other thing was that all last year I spent making menstrual pads to send, and
Wow.
um, I actually need this restart, but I haven't had time to set it back up again.
Yeah,
But yeah, because girls aren't going to school because of period poverty, and
gotcha.
so yeah, I don't know, just
Well, you do know you're
doing.
making a difference on the ground where it's needed. I mean, what could be more meaningful work than that?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I see a problem. Let's see what we can do to fix it. So my thing was, lady in Ghana, Nigeria, sorry, Nigeria said we
Hmm.
have a period pad bank, so for menstrual pads, so girls can come take out menstrual pads if they need it. Can
Okay.
you supply us with some? And I'm like, sure, I can. Now I have to hurry up and get to work on them, but.
Yeah.
Then I heard people talking about no, they shouldn't be using the reusable ones because they don't have any. Where are they supposed to carry them? How are they supposed to change them at work? I mean, at
Right.
school,
Right.
etc. And then I thought, well, we should just make a bag with the ins one half of it's got wax line material that
Hmm.
won't. And the other side has regular, so the dignity bag of sorts, so you can have both
Gotcha.
sides, right? Then
Yep.
I thought, well, we should just have somebody make those. So then I thought, well, I have these two ladies. I call them tomato ladies because they were selling tomatoes and they had a certificate because they learned how to do tailoring, but they didn't have a machine. So then I thought, well, I should probably get them a sewing machine. Then I can hire them to make these dignity bags and then I can send those to Nigeria. And they could also make dignity bags on their own and then make some money. And so then I
Wow.
thought, well, let's bring in the elderly too because we've already found that they need to do it. So then I had that whole, it all blended in me.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful when you can make it all align like that and you see the needs and the resources.
Well, it's huge because before, a year or so before, I sponsored 65 students to go to school, but I had their book bags made by refugee-led organizations. I had their uniforms made by refugee-led organization.
Yeah.
Anything that I could put out to somebody else to do,
Yes.
I did. So that way it would spread the wealth, so to speak, or lack of,
Yeah.
because really it was not that expensive, but yeah.
Well, and isn't that what the world needs? People to connect and share and make a
Mhm.
difference. Yeah. Well, I said at the start of this interview, you're remarkable. And for anybody who
Oh,
didn't know you before we started, they now know what I meant.
thank
Um,
you.
you are such a light and, you know, in
I'm
no
just having
small,
fun.
oh, I can tell that too. I mean, the energy and the smiles and
Yeah,
thank you for everything you do and for who you are. And thank you for the article.
yeah, no problem. I
Wonderful. And
appreciate
looking,
it.
yeah, let us know how we can continue to support you in the future.
Well, honestly, I just got today a notification that my abstract was accepted at the Africa, what's it called? Actually, it's on my other screen here. Let's go down because I was like, whoa, what? Cool, I didn't expect that. Uh,
Yeah,
Africa Network for Inter the African Network for Internationalization of Education. It's a
excellent.
Pan-African network and think tank. Anyway, I got it. My paper was accepted, so I get to go speak about language
Wonderful.
power, narratives, and stuff. So, yeah, if anyone wants to help, they can go to my website and I hate to say the word donate. I really hate fundraising, but this
Hey,
is not going to be a cheap trip. So,
no, yeah, there's expense. So
but it's exciting.
I should have this on the tip of my tongue. Is the website littlebylittlecom? What is the address?
Now, little by little dash education.org.
Thank you. Little by
Mm-hmm.
little dash education.org. And I will put that along with this recording so that people can click right from the recording
Well, that's really
on the
sweet of
thing.
you. Thank you very much. Um, yeah, no, that's huge because in
Yeah.
September I get to speak at International Education Justice Conference at UCLA,
Nice.
and it's about similar stuff, power and language.
Yes.
So,
Important, important conversation.
yeah, this is so
So
exciting.
it is. Well, we're excited to keep following you and see where you lead us next.
Who knows?